Oh Lord, pull up in that '04, pedal to the metal, said she wanna hit the flow more.
So, before this season, I said it would be the most important one in the history of the Atlanta Falcons because I pointed out that if they blew it again this year, after 2 consecutive losing seasons, Arthur Blank would blow up this franchise, and it would set them way back. They've been around since 1966, the Falcons, and their good old days didn't come until 2008 and 2009. That's when they hired a guy named Thomas Dimitroff as general manager who hired Mike Smith as head coach. Can you imagine that? Hiring the GM first and then the head coach? We'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so from that point on, in 2008, they immediately, the Falcons, had back-to-back winning seasons for the first time ever. And from that point on, they've been basically okay and sometimes better than that. But not just flat out bad and awful like they were prior to 2008 before Thomas Dimitroff got here. So anyway, sure enough, they started headed to their third straight losing season, which they finished with their third straight losing season this year. But in the middle of that, Arthur Blank fires Dan Quinn as head coach, no loss there. But he also fires Thomas Dimitroff. Now, I know a lot of you guys didn't like Thomas Dimitroff. I want to tell you something. Thomas Dimitroff was one of the best things ever to happen to this franchise. I just pointed out why. And here's another reason why. When they fired him, that allowed Arthur Blank to go back to the future and reach deep into his front office and bring back, Rich McKay. This is the same Rich McKay who brought in coaches of infamy, right? In Jim Mora and Bobby Petrino. That Rich McKay. The same Rich McKay who was in charge with Arthur Blank of finding a new head coach and a new general manager during what has turned into the most important offseason in the history of the Atlanta Falcons. Why? Well, they got to decide what to do with Matt Ryan. Julio Jones, offensive line, after spending all that money on it a couple years ago, still is shaky. All right? The defense is brutal again. And they're $25 million over the salary cap. They could not afford to blow it, but they hire Arthur Smith. Yeah. Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. He's never been head coach. He's only been offensive coordinator for 2 years. Yeah, that guy. Now, I know I've got inside sources who have coached with him. They love him. Yeah, I mean, they say he gets along well with players, with fellow coaches. They say he's a very smart guy, yada, yada, yada. His father's very rich, founder of FedEx, but they say he doesn't throw himself around that way. They all do the smaller tasks. But here's another point. All right, everybody's talking about, the Falcons need to improve their offense because they're wrapped up with the explosiveness of the offenses in the National Football League. That's what. So a lot of people who like this move, who says it's going to be a great move, they point out that they're bringing in Arthur Smith, who was the offensive coordinator of a fairly good offense. But here's the point: that's not the problem. That's not the Falcons' problem. The Falcons' problem forever has been defense. All right, let's start this year. Let's work backwards. All right, they became the only team this year ever. They became their only team ever to have to blow 2 fourth-quarter leads of 15 points or more in consecutive games. Think about that. National Football League's been around since 1920. Never happened before until this year with the Falcons. 28-3. That never happened before. Never before in history of a Super Bowl has a team given up a 25-point lead. And at the end of the third quarter. And because of 28-3, people forget about 14-0. Do you remember that? Probably not. 2013 NFC Championship game right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Falcons are playing the San Francisco 49ers up by 17. And Falcons became the first team in the history of either league championship games, AFC or NFC, to blow that type of lead. All right, here's the other thing about defense. Going into the NFL playoffs this past weekend, there were 8 teams. 5 of the 8 were ranked in the top 10 in total defense in the NFL during the regular season. Of the 3 other teams, the lowest ranked team in total defense was 17th. The Falcons this year, out of 32 teams, they were 29th. They've been deep in the 20s forever, okay? All right, let's get back to this GM thing. Okay, but Arthur Blank and Rich McKay said, well, it doesn't matter whether they hired a GM first or the head coach first. So they hired a head coach first. Well, you know what? It matters. They had a guy back in the day by the name of Ken Hurrock as general manager, and they also had a coach back in the day named Jerry Glanville. They hated each other. They hated each other so much that they couldn't decide whether to keep this guy named Brett Favre, and he ends up going to Green Bay, and we all know what happens then. Oh, but anyway, one final thing. The Falcons have not been the most popular franchise lately. I'm not talking about nationally. I'm talking about locally. Okay? Did you see some of those crowds or non-crowds at this brand new Mercedes-Benz Stadium the last couple of years? Eey. No shows galore. Plus the fact the Falcons have had trouble selling these PSLs, these seats that people purchase beforehand to give them a right to buy season tickets. So it's not a time to bring in somebody named Arthur Smith, I would say. Okay, I'm just saying. But who knows? He could turn out to be great.
This is my falsetto, wicked potion with the slow pour. This is my addiction, make me wanna go for more. Pale